We want to invite people from across campus to join with us and partner with us.
The Department of State Health Services saw this Preventing Obesity by Design model as an opportunity for an early intervention strategy to combat the obesity epidemic.
One of the main links between all of us and the Coalition for Natural Learning in our various areas of expertise of design, landscape architecture, and human development and family sciences is the importance of promoting children's development across all domains: social, emotional, cognitive, and physical.
We are very excited and we really thank you for this honor. And we are also really excited that we work for a university that values outreach and engagement and engaged scholarship. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about our team and how we came to be. Our coalition is formed across disciplines, and Dr. Colwell and I have probably been working together 7 or 8 years on a number of different research projects that have to do with design and child development or early childhood. Dr. Klein and I actually started collaborating when we were contacted by the Texas Department of State Health Services to serve on a statewide leadership team for an initiative to implement an outdoor learning environment strategy. And then Dr. Mansour came to us from North Carolina State, who is a collaborator with us in some of our projects. And then Lori, almost Dr. Lori Guerrero, she has defended successfully. We're just waiting for the official title. She is actually going to be coming on board and staying with us and working as a postdoctoral fellow. So this is our leadership group that we have for our coalition, and you will hear more about some of our integrated scholarship as we go through. So I'll tell you a little bit about our coalition, just some brief overview. So first of all, we want to invite people from across campus to join with us and partner with us. We broadly define natural learning to include all age groups. This is not just for children. We do work with children quite a bit because we know that early intervention can have a great impact on quality of life. But we also work with all age groups, adults throughout the life cycle. We also want to encourage other disciplines to come and partner with us. And so some of the projects that we're going to briefly describe to you today, we're doing that, I think, so that you can see how broad this coalition really is and how broad our approach is. So we've had some award-winning publications. We do workshops, we train designers, we work with early child care centers. We have partnered with a project in Malawi, Africa. We train teachers, we organize volunteer work days, and we get our students involved in service learning projects and get them out of the classroom so that they can learn more. And so I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Colwell now and let her talk a little bit about her research. Then I will talk a little bit about briefly kind of an overview of some of the inclusive design projects. And then we're going to devote most of our presentation today to the OLE project because we know we can't fully discuss everything. So we're going to make some of them kind of short and then try to go in more detail about one project. So I'll turn it to Dr. Colwell now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gaines. So one of the main links between all of us and the Coalition for Natural Learning in our various areas of expertise of design, landscape architecture, and human development and family sciences is the importance of promoting children's development across all domains: social, emotional, cognitive, and physical. The work we do together on all the various projects that you'll hear about today is aimed at creating developmentally appropriate spaces, curriculum, and opportunities for children to flourish in their environments and with their interactions with others. So one of the projects that I've had the opportunity to be involved in have been projects in Malawi, Africa. We have partnered with a nonprofit called Circle of Hope International. And Circle of Hope International operates the Grace Center in Malawi, and they have an orphanage, schools, health clinic, job training, and parent support programs for people in their village and surrounding villages. Work on the early childhood teacher training and development of the Early Childhood Development Center grew out of the need created by active, healthy children in classrooms. The health of the children was enhanced by a food insecurity intervention, which increased children's health and activity, which then led to a need for some different facilities and a different educational approach to support children's learning. Dr. Michelle Pearson in the Department of Design worked on the Early Childhood Development Center project, and you can see some pictures of that down here at the bottom right of the slide. And she interviewed many different constituents in Malawi and investigated a lot of different spaces throughout that region in Malawi to design this space so that children could learn, interact, eat, and play in a safe environment that met all these needs. And currently, Circle of Hope International is in the process of raising funds to move this from design to full construction. Stacy Johnson, who's the director of the Texas Tech Child Development Research Center, an undergraduate student in HDFS and a graduate student in HDFS, and I had the opportunity to work with early childhood educators at the Grace Center to provide some teacher training. The teachers were used to a very a very rote method of teaching, where they, for example, would say colors and children in unison would repeat those words. And once they noticed that they had more active children and they began to question whether this rote methodology was the best one to meet the educational goals that they had, they invited us to work with them on different ways to promote active learning in their classrooms. And so we created lessons using materials that were naturally available to the Malawians. For example, we designed a lot of lessons that had to do with rocks. Rocks are plentiful. So we talked about things like learning to create shapes, counting. We use bottle caps for learning to sort, identify colors. We used the dirt, which is also very prevalent in Malawi, to help children to learn to begin to write, to use that natural resource instead of having the need for paper and pencils. We also use the goats who roam freely in that community to learn to count and to talk about animals and different kinds of movement. It's very humbling and very gratifying to work with the early childhood educators in Malawi, to learn from them first and foremost, and to adapt active learning to their culture and context to meet the goals and the needs that they had addressed. And throughout our time in Malawi, we have learned so many different lessons. And there are three main lessons that I like to incorporate in my work with undergraduate and graduate students. One is very much the importance of multidisciplinary work in addressing real world issues, problems, and needs. As we bring our expertise together in the Coalition for Natural Learning, from design, landscape architecture, and HDFS, we can address a wider array of needs and address them, I think, more completely than if any of us was working alone. Another lesson that I bring with that I talk with my students about has to do with working with various groups and nonprofits to identify and address those needs, and the process of really beginning by listening, sharing, and really working together to generate various solutions. I found that this process it really is a real partnership and an equal sharing of knowledge and skills between the group you're working with in the community and the folks from the university. And the final lesson that I'd like to touch on just a little bit are the challenges and joys of working across cultures and in different countries. There was a very steep learning curve for all of us who've been to Malawi in terms of things like learning to work with translators, not being able to speak the language or to have very few words in their language, and yet having the need to communicate very clearly so that we were addressing the goals that had been set forth. So although this process wasn't always smooth or easy, it's really important and very gratifying work for sure. So those are just a few examples of things that we've learned through our partnerships and working in Malawi. Dr. Gaines?
All right, I'm going to give you an overview now of some of our projects with inclusive design. And we've had a number of collaborators. You can see some of them listed across the bottom of the screen. Um, we are very interested in designing for inclusion, and we frequently get asked this question about, in all of our projects, about how we are incorporating inclusive design. So first of all, over on the left-hand side, you can see we've developed a series of principles of inclusive design. These are principles and sub-principles. In the middle is a research project that we've done where we partnered with neuroscience using fMRI technology, and we manipulated learning features in the learning environment so that we could actually see what was happening inside the brain, because a lot of times we gather information based on observation or what other people may observe or what they think or expert opinions, but this actually shows what is happening in the brain in actually a learning environment. The project on the top is an award-winning student project that was submitted as part of a design competition. And then down close to the bottom, you see a picture of a sensory clothing project that was evidence-based, where we designed, my collaborator was Sue Shin for this, and we designed several pieces of clothing for people with sensory integration problems. This received a lot of national attention and a lot of media attention. And then a book, Designing for Autism Spectrum Disorders, which has been the recipient of 4 external awards that are the leading organizations in interior and environmental design. So it's been recognized by the design community. And so all of this scholarship also impacts teaching, which is the next slide. And so at the graduate and undergraduate level. So on the left side, you see a graduate project. This was also submitted as part of a student design competition, and it's been submitted at conferences. The one in the middle was an undergraduate, second-year students in a residential design class who designed for a family with autism. And there were 3 different families. Actually, Lori was a teaching assistant at the time in this class. And so she helped with this also. And so the students were assigned one of these 3 families. They had to design specifically for the family. So the family had, they researched how to design appropriately and the features to look for. So the families received several different design solutions, but the students also received a lot of feedback. And here's some of the reflections. I want to read the one at the bottom. It said, "I believe that concepts taught in this class educate us on much more than just interior design. This class has taught me not only to accept, but also to make an effort to learn more about people that are not like me, so that I can begin to understand what they face from day to day and admire the things they are able to achieve." And so then on the next slide, it shows how a lot of these inclusive design principles with research and teaching and how it's integrated into service outreach and engagement. So the service learning, that was actually a designated service learning course where the students designed those projects. We do present to a lot of professional and community groups. We do consulting. This project that's down here on the bottom, this is a sensory integration hub, and I served on the scientific advisory board for HKS Architects on this project, and it was implemented in a school in Chicago, and it's an award-winning project. And then a number of media presentations with TV, radio, and print, including common print such as Architectural Digest. These projects have been included in those those types of media. And so now we're going to kind of shift over to the rest of the presentation. We'll be talking a lot more about the Olay, Texas project and how we are working together and partnering with a statewide team.
Thanks, Dr. Gaines. This is Charlie Klein, and I'm going to be talking about the Olay, Texas initiative that is sponsored by the Department of State Health Services in Texas. The team has been involved with the program since about August, when we helped facilitate the first demonstration design workshop in Texas. It was at the Covenant Child Development Center here in Lubbock, and we had, at the time, just 2 graduate students helping us, and at the time they were volunteers. So the Olay, Texas initiative is a statewide evidence-based design intervention. Now, that's kind of a mouthful, but I have a colleague who has given presentations, and he said his parents just don't understand landscape architecture. So what you do is so pretty. Everything you make everything so pretty. Well, yes, we're concerned about aesthetics. We're also concerned about how the design can affect behavior, and in this case, specifically children. And it's based. It principally looks at childhood physical activity and increasing age-appropriate motor skills, managing risk, and improving and naturalizing children's outdoor learning environments. That's where Olay comes from, outdoor learning environments. It's based on the research conducted at the Natural Learning Initiative by 2 researchers. Natural Learning Initiative is part of the North Carolina State University College of Design. Nilda Costco and Robin Moore, over 20 years of research, have found that a well-designed outdoor space can reduce sedentary behavior by more than 22%. There are a lot of other benefits to outdoor learning environments listed there, including support for early childhood developmental domains. And they developed the Preventing Obesity by Design model. We can go back one, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't matter. That looks at, they've developed 12 best practice indicators that should be included in outdoor learning environments, including looping curvy pathways, space for loose parts, fruit and vegetable gardening, which helps teach children where food comes from and that it's okay to eat broccoli, and even potatoes that come out of the dirt. And right now in Texas, 30% of the children ages 2 to 4 are either obese or overweight. So the Department of State Health Services saw this Preventing Obesity by Design model as an opportunity for an early intervention strategy to combat the obesity epidemic. Along with their 12 best practice indicators, they've developed a participatory design process where we work together, gather around at a big table when we could still gather, and work with stakeholders from the child care center, including teachers, parents, maybe the local extension agent, master gardeners, even the maintenance person, to help develop a plan for a child care center for improving their outdoor learning environment. Let's go on to the next one. These are some of the statewide partners that we're serving with on the statewide leadership team, but our coalition has gone way beyond that first design workshop with Covenant, and including serving on the statewide leadership team, we promote local activities, including more design workshops. We've probably done about 10 over the past couple of years, including here in Lubbock, Amarillo, Midland, Austin, quite a few in the Houston area, and Richardson. After we develop those designs, we also provide technical assistance for those centers to help with the implementation. We're providing statewide training for design professionals in this process, and developing a certified OLE Texas designer network that child care centers can turn to find a designer that understands the process and the principles. That'll be part of the web-based resources, along with the OLE Texas Designer and Inspector's Guide that can help those centers and designers implement the outdoor learning environment. We've supported dissertation and thesis research. We've presented at local, state, national, and even international conferences. Unfortunately, the one in Brisbane, we weren't able to travel to. It went virtual, but those things happen. We've sought external funding and have funded a variety of graduate students and continue to look for funding to continue with the program. And we incorporate those design principles and processes in the classroom. And to talk about that a little bit, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Mansour.
Thank you, Dr. Klein. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the exciting ongoing works as an extension of the OLE Texas program. So our work is very much hands-on, changing children's environment, bringing more nature to it, bringing more physical activity and meaningful connection to nature. But we are also exploring the potential use of technologies. Here we are using high quality 3D imaging to create some virtual tours. We are calling them interactive virtual tours of these outdoor environments to demonstrate how this kind of environment can improve overall living conditions of children. So these virtual tours, we can embed a lot of educational videos, a lot of different kinds of guides and other resources. And these virtual tours, we are thinking that they will be great tools to promote this kind of intervention, outdoor learning environment intervention. We feel that there's not a lot of resource for childcare parents to learn about the outdoor environment or how an environment can influence the health and well-being of their children. So we see use of interactive virtual tours in other enterprises like restaurants or real estates. So we are in this project, we are trying to see if we create this kind of interactive virtual tours for childcare centers and we provide them or we empower childcare centers to demonstrate the good works they're doing, would it increase parent awareness about this kind of intervention? Next slide. Thanks, Laurie. Also, one important thing about this whole initiative is how can we bring this excitement to our classrooms? So both Dr. Klein and Dr. Gaines were saying that it's really important for our students to understand that the design that we do, I mean, aesthetics is one of the concern, but one of our major goal is to create design that promotes behavior or desirable behavioral outcomes. So the only way, not the only way, probably the best way to teach our students about the power of their design is to take them out of their classrooms. So this is something that we did last year. I must mention that CDRC, Child Development Research Center, is a great collaboration. I mean, they're always open to new ideas. So last year, we took our students to the CDRC outdoors, and we challenged our students to use recycled material and create an unique play experience for the children. So this was a great exercise, allowed our students to see how their design generates behavior or different kinds of behavioral outcomes. So they learned about how design can fail, or they also learned how there are unexpected success sometime with design. But overall, students learned that to design an environment for children, we have to think about diversity. Some children loves to run around, but there are some children who want to sit in a quiet corner. So creating all these different types of environments or elements let our students know a great deal about the environment behavior relationship or the behavioral outcomes of their design. This year, we were not able to repeat what we have done last year because of the pandemic and all the restrictions we have. But again, we went to CDRC. They were planning to design an outdoor classroom honoring the memories of Margie Collins. Margie Collins was a teacher in CDRC who worked there for 25 years and died recently this year in January. So CDRC was trying to create a design in the memories of Margie Collins. So we took our students to CDRC and we conducted an online survey asking questions about Margie, her teaching philosophies, and a few other questions about what would teachers prefer in the design. Again, students get a real opportunity to learn from their potential clients and learn that not only what they think is beautiful is enough, also learned that teachers and caregivers have specific needs. And bringing this wonderful concept of Margie's memories and trying to translate that concept into a design. So these are some of the students' work. The word cloud that you can see on the right is created by a student based on real data. So we asked CDRC, teachers, caregivers, what are the first three things that come to their mind when they think about the memories of Margie? So that word cloud is created from that data. So we continue to, we try to engage our students in this excitement, in this endeavors of improving environment for children. Thank you.
So this is the website that is being developed as a resource hub to disseminate the coalition's mission, research, and projects. And I'm going to add the link to the website in the chat once I'm done speaking, so that if you're interested in going and learning more about the coalition, you can go and visit the website. And this is the homepage where we post news and announcements. And then, like Dr. Gaines said, there are many, many projects that we're involved in, but I'm going to focus on one of those, which is the Ole, Texas project. And if you see right here on the far right side, there's a drop-down menu, and it shows all of the different aspects to Ole, Texas, and how you can get information. And parts of the website are still under construction. So you'll see, if you go visit the website now, that there's even more information than was on the website when we created these slides. The About page explains the mission of Ole, Texas, and it also links to the agency leading the statewide initiative, the Texas Department of State Health Services. We are also the administrators for the database of certified OLE designers. And when a visitor comes to the site, and the purpose of this database is to connect childcare centers with designers who know the mission of Ole, Texas. And when they come to the site, they can click on one of the designers' names, and it pops up with the services provided and detailed contact information. We also have examples of the illustrative master plans for the projects that the coalition is overseeing. These are examples of the final design plans that are provided to the child care centers. Under resources, Dr. Klein talked about these earlier, but this is the designer and inspector guide that a visitor can request to download the guides. And these guides assist anyone from a registered landscape architect to an individual home-based childcare center owner. And it guides them to not only design and develop a safe outdoor learning environment, but also one that fulfills the mission of Ole, Texas. And since I am the graduate student, I will also be giving the perspective, the student perspective on the coalition. And so when I came to Texas Tech University, I had a conversation with Dr. Gaines previously, and it's actually something that recruited me to Texas Tech. So coalitions and projects like this can be a recruitment tool. And I also was able to take this class called Designing Natural Learning Environments, where I was able to take the NLI designing certificate. And probably the most impactful as a graduate student was the time that I got to volunteer in the community to help build an outdoor learning environment. And hopefully after COVID is over, we'll be able to have some more community engagement projects like this. And we want to acknowledge the organizations that have provided funding. And we'd also like to invite everyone to partner with us. The aim of the Coalition for Natural Learning is to be a cross-campus, multidisciplinary, collaborative coalition. And so if you'd like to partner with us, you can contact any of us. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat as well, because we'd love to have you join us in the coalition. And at this point, I guess we'll open it up to questions.
Are there any questions from the audience? I guess I'm curious, when did your project begin? How many years has this been in existence?
So I think, the early stages that Dr. Colwell and I have been working together about 7 or 8 years. This project, 2016, Dr. Klein, is that?
Yeah, in August, yeah.
Yeah, the Ole project, 2016.
Okay, great. And are there any local partners that you work with here, specifically in Lubbock County?
I am on mute. Okay. Yeah, some of the partners we worked with, like such as, well, even in the university, the women's lacrosse team came out and helped at Covenant dig out for a sidewalk. We've contacted and worked with Texas Workforce Commission to reach out to other child care centers. We've approached Scouts, Boy Scouts, to help with construction projects. I also want to mention that Lowe's and Hildebrand Tree Tech has provided materials. Hildebrand Tree Tech brought out a bunch of logs and stumps, and we had a work day where I got to cut them up with a chainsaw, and teachers and parents helped stain those and protect those and place those in the landscape.
Wonderful. Well, very impressive. Since we are almost out of time, I noticed that Lori shared a web link with everybody, and feel free to correspond with our presenters directly or add your questions to the chat room, and our presenters will be able to answer those even after this session is over. Oh, okay, so there is one question from Beth Phelps. What is the most challenging aspect of this work?
Well, currently it's COVID, of course, but I think education and outreach is the most challenging aspect. Getting parents and administrators and inspectors and legislators to understand the value of a natural environment. I was able to take a development leave and visit a variety of different spaces and places. And I heard things like parents would pick up their kids early so they wouldn't have to play outside. But by the same token, over time, when the parents were educated and it was explained to them what was going on, that same center now has a backlog. They have a waiting list of people that want to join them. I gave a presentation once and I said that we wanted to reduce risk, and somebody came up to me afterwards and said, no, you don't want to reduce risk. You want to manage risk. How are kids going to learn about risk? So balancing risk and hazard is one of the challenges. And so I know, and many of the designers are concerned about liability issues. So overcoming some of those things is probably the biggest challenge.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, we are, as I mentioned, we are right at 3:30, almost 3:30. So I want to thank Drs. Klein and Gaines and Caldwell and Monzour, as well as Laurie Guerrero. Thank you so much. And also my heartfelt congratulations to you for winning the President's Emerging Engaged Scholarship Awards in 2020. We hope we can celebrate in person next year. So please stay tuned, and let's cross our fingers that one of these days some face-to-face celebrations will be possible again. And before we leave, I wanted to remind you that we have part 2 of this webinar series coming up on November the 5th. And that webinar will feature the second winner of our President's Engaged Scholarship Award. And it's a team of professors from the College of Education, and the project is entitled Literacy Champions. We will also feature the winner of the President's Exemplary Program Award, and that's the Kessner Matador Institute for Leadership Engagement. And it will feature Lindsay Kennedy and Cindy Akers as presenters. So I hope you will join us on November the 5th, and thank you for joining us today. And again, feel free to submit any additional questions that you might have for the presenters. And I want to thank all the presenters again for spending time to talk about your impactful work that has reached so many constituents across communities and has benefited the university curriculum, research, funding, various kinds of impacts that we hope Engaged Scholarship can achieve. Thank you again.